Hello everyone, and appreciate your presence. I hope everyone will enjoy the presentation. So the title is slightly different, from reality capture to digital twins. So asset management falls into that as well. A quick presentation roadmap. We're going to look at studies. We're going to look at definitions quickly, the value of reality capture and asset management and digital twins. We're going to look at project lifecycle support of both of these, and how the process works, and then project examples and conclusion. A little bit about myself. As Reis was saying, head of digital construction at Urban Surveys. We basically focus on reality capture solutions. I've been fortunate enough to speak at several events. I have a master's in global management from Ziggurat, and I currently as well teach and mentor at that university. And I'm also part of Building Smart UAE, which was founded at the end of 2020. So starting with studies, I can see the screen is a little bit dim, but this image is showing a typical handover documents delivery, where we're trying to migrate from this. You see often when a project is done and the commissioning is happening, you see tons of documents being delivered, and that ends up the facility management data. So we're definitely in an age that we're getting away from it, and we're digitizing everything, so we get away from this mess. So imagine you want to grab a piece of document or a drawing from all of these papers, and that's going to be a disaster. Now here I'm showing undetected construction mistakes that actually happen, and these are real-life photos. You can see a camera that's basically behind the signage, an ATM that's made for children, and at the end there's a stairway leading to a wall, so that's probably taking you to Hogwarts and Harry Potter. So really what we're going to do is we're going to try and get away from this. We have to capture the reality to understand what's going on in our facility. Now we're looking at several research studies that talk about the major effects of poor facility management. First and very important is the health and safety hazards. Then we have the poor service to end user. We have high future costs and unpredicted costs because of poor periodic maintenance and things that we cannot predict. Building deficiencies, also that's part of it. Poor visual outlooks, as we've seen in the images before. There are things that we don't know that are happening in the facility or in the building. Unplanned periodic maintenance, which is also related to the high future costs. Bad customer reviews because of all of that. Struggle in managing technicians, and lack of real-time and accurate data. To sum up all of that in a nice and visual aspect, there's a lack of planning, there's big decisions that need to be made, but there's not enough data, there's too much to do and few resources, and more importantly, it's the stakeholders and the owners that are stuck in old habits, and that's what we need to get away from. And that leads to top talent and the tenant turnover. So they try to leave those toxic places, and they try to leave buildings that are inefficient. That's a quick example on why we need reality capture. First off, it's saying 80% of non-residential buildings in the US are more than 20 years old. And then in the UK, 70% of infrastructure projects are over 100 years old. And you can imagine if you want to do some work on those projects, renovate them, or whatever needs to be happening, you need to have the data required for that. And oftentimes, 9 out of 10 drawings are inaccurate if they're found. And if you have drawings, that they're going to be totally outdated. So what's required for that is reality capture and capturing that data to have accurate drawings. Quickly looking at definitions. Now I understand most of you here would understand what reality capture is. So we're on the same page, it's a digital 3D model representation of the real asset that's created by scanning. I stress enough that reality capture is not digital twins. Some people would say it is digital twins, but it's just the digital replica at this point. Asset management or facility management is providing the tools and services to support the functionality of the asset. And there's two types of facility management. It's hard FM, which has to do with the assets, the physical assets themselves, and soft FM, which has to do with the soft things such as the maintenance, and the operations of the assets. Digital twin, also in short, is a virtual representation of real-world entities or a real building but that's synchronized at the same time. So you can actually control it and control every asset inside the building. And that's what a digital twin is. And we're going to look on how we can reach that from reality capture. Now, looking at the value of reality capture, first question is, why not use traditional surveying? So I'm not going to go that much into detail, but I'm going to say errors in 2D get exponentially bigger in 3D. So with BIM and 3D modeling and the ability to do the reality capture, which provides you a virtual model, you're going to remove that barrier. You're going to get complete data, accurate data, reliable data that can almost be immediately shared on the cloud. And even the client can look at it in the palm of his hand. You can scan inaccessible places, organic objects, such as projects for Zaha Hadid, which are otherwise impossible to survey in traditional methods. It is safe and it is very labor efficient. Literally, one person can scan a building on his own. So the major benefits for reality capture that we could have seen also in the previous slide, accurate measurements, allowing you to do better coordination. It's very safe, whereas one person can scan and you can use a drone if there's something with a hazard. It's going to be time saving between 50 and 75%. It's going to also be cost saving up to 50%, depending on the scenario. And with that, you're going to have a return of investment and you're going to maintain your profit margin. Moving on to FM and digital twins. The major benefits are productivity. Studies have shown 17% more productivity. You have a single source of truth, and so you're going to have all your data in one place. Everyone is going to be accessing the same data, and that data is going to be sustainable because it's found in the cloud, and it's going to be there on the long run. So with that, it's efficient, and because it's in one single place, they're all going to have the same standards, and that's what we're aiming for, preferably using the ISO standards as much as possible. It's going to allow you to save up to 45% in time and between 30 and 50% in cost, and thus maintaining, again, the profit margin and removing the risk pretty much of having hazards that happen, such as the building that collapsed and was all over the news and killed a lot of people because of poor facilities management. So looking at the project lifecycle support, with reality capture, it's connecting all the stakeholders, whether that's the owner to the end user, including all the designers and engineers. And across that, you can use it for planning, for progressive monitoring. You can use it for risk management and risk mitigation. And you can use it for inspections. And looking at the same uses and expanding a little bit more along the project lifecycle, you can use it from the design phase, such as scanning the surroundings or scanning the building itself if it's an interior design. In renovation, there's also disaster recovery, which has played a major role in having the disaster recovery. To operations and construction, where you can use the progressive monitoring, the coordination, and the clash detection, along with the point cloud data. And you can see along that, you have many other uses. And that's why we're aiming for asset management for the future using reality capture. As for asset management, we're looking at, this is an image from AESG, who are our partner, and they actually take it further into asset management. So their platform is called Data Plus, and it's kind of a CDE that provides you with all the information required to manage a facility. And it starts from the strategy all the way up to operations and end of life. Moving on to the process workflow. I'm going to start with our workflow, which is about reality capture. And this is the start to digital twins. I always tell people this is not digital twins, this is the start to it, okay? So we start by planning, we capture the data, we understand what's the required technology that needs to be to scan that actually, and then we compute it, we process it, we create the BIM model based on that, and if the client needs any more data, we can do analysis, check deviations and discrepancies, and with that you have a digital replica, not a digital twin. And then moving on, how can we connect this process to asset management? So first, you start with reliable 3D model, and in this case, it's based on the scanning done by us. And then you move on to adding the information, which is the metadata in the BIM model, and in that case, it's by AESG, our partner. And moving on, you need to have a common data environment, a single source of truth, to have all that information and the model. And that's where Data Plus comes in place, and thus you have an asset management you're able to utilize, maintain, and operate your asset. But what if we can do more, and how can we go to digital twins? That's where the next step comes in place. AESG can work with pretty much any digital twin platform via open API. And for example, now we need Internet of Things, so we need to connect to equipment and devices. And then after that, we're able to integrate with a digital twin platform such as TwinView, and thus achieving a seamless connection with a CDE and having a two-way street with the digital twin platform. And this is the way we're looking at it to achieve the digital twins, and thus why the process starts with the end in mind, and that's what it starts with reality capture. Just to show a little bit of integrations, Data Plus can integrate with pretty much any software because they have an open API. And this is an example of asset management where you can see the equipment, you can see all the information related to it, or you can see an image along with that information, in that case, in a 360 panoramic image. This is a maturity spectrum done by Atkins, where it really shows from level 0 to level 5, starting with reality capture, and then virtual mockup, and this is where we come in place. And then our partner comes at level 2 and level 3, where they can provide a one-way digital twin. And then moving on to the actual digital twin is level 4, and that can be integrated with any other platform. And then Atkins have indicated here level 5, which they call digital twin nirvana, which includes artificial intelligence and enabling autonomous operations. There's, of course, a lot of challenges and a lot of things we need to understand to have this process aligned. First of all, we need to look at level of information need. This is an ISO standard. So I understand, for example, Brian was talking about LOD and the difference between LOD in different countries. This is why it's important to understand level of information need and how we can all speak the same language. And this is detailed, of course, into geometrical information, alphanumerical, and documentation. And the most important question, I say, is the purpose. Why are you creating this data, and why do you need this data? Another thing is the COBE data, which is in most cases provided for the facilities management, and it's heavily reliant on IFC. So IFC plays a major also core in the asset management and digital twins. Moving on to project examples, one example is for Siemens factory, and that was done by scanning it with Navis, and then they use the platform of Navis to manage their asset and plan and operate it. So they have literally everything on the palm of their hand. They can tag assets, they can have periodic maintenance, they can comment, they can also interact on it and collaborate. Another example is one that we've done in Dubai for Heriot-Watt University. And this is basically the client, Heriot-Watt, they wanted us to scan, and they wanted us to provide them with an accurate model for them to take over and make a digital twin of the university. And last example is one Zabil. Probably it has the largest the highest cantilever with the longest span, which is spanning above 2 highways in Dubai. And we were fortunate enough, along with AESG, that we were both involved in this project. Conclusions, we all understand the reason of why we have sometimes bad data, and that's really the frustration that's happening. We don't have a uniform standard that everyone is following. And as my colleague says, as designed is rarely as built, and as built is never as maintained. So we're trying to bridge that gap and make people understand that you need to start from somewhere. You need to start from reliable data, and that starts with reality capture. So again, going back to those images, that's what we're trying to avoid, just like a reminder to see what we're trying to avoid in the future. And I end my presentation with this slide that actually BIM Coordinators Summit put. We're going to truthful information, and we're going away from the corrupt, incomplete, uncoordinated information. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed.